any of those things. You need to sell some of them. You're wasting all your time and money on models. Paint what you have.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Model Club TV, episode 8. 8. We got enough fingers still. That's awesome.
Still.
How are you today, Scott?
I'm fantastic.
It's October.
It is October.
We started this back when? When did we start this? June? Was that our first episode? It's crazy. It's still going.
Still going. Yeah.
We're a little late on this episode. I want to apologize to everybody. We were waiting for an interview with Matt Lawrence, and that came through. So that's who our guest is this episode. I think everybody will kind of like it. There's some really cool things to look at. We try to hit the first of the month. This is the first time we're late, kind of out of our control. We wanted to really get this one, make this one happen. So yeah, I hope it was worth it for everybody.
I don't know if anyone's noticed, but look, I have background on my door. Everyone's been giving me shit about, you need to hang something on your door. So this is this creature from the Black Lagoon print that showed up on my Facebook feed, and I bought for like $15 or something.
Very cool.
And so I stuck that up there just so there's a little more going on back there. And if you hear the knocking on the door, that's my dog trying to get in because he's mad that I've got him locked out of here.
Dogs. Who needs them? So. You probably do. Okay. Anyway, moving on. News and reviews. We need an intro thing for that at some point. But news and reviews. I think our first news item of the day, new AFM issue came out. Looks pretty cool. I have not actually seen it yet, but it is out.
That piece on the cover looks amazing.
Oh, it's gorgeous looking. I can't wait to see that inside there. But most people should start seeing that pretty soon, showing up. The weird issue that they're having, if you read the editorial, no longer available on newsstands. Kind of scary. Still available in comic book stores, correct?
Yes, I believe Diamond is still distributing it. I actually got my Godzilla issue at the comic store, which I was afraid I wasn't going to get because that hit right at the start of the COVID thing. But when I went,
and what's your favorite comic book store, Scott?
Amazing Fantasy Books and Comics in Frankfurt on LaGrange Road.
That's my favorite too.
Okay.
They owe us money now.
They should give us some money, although I have gotten free t-shirts before. So.
Oh, that's right. I never got a free t-shirt. Anyway, so so they're available in comic book stores. They're working on more digital content to come out. We're going to try and get Terry Webb on next month in November to come on and talk about future of the magazine, where they're headed, what's going on, how it's going. It's been, I'm sure it's a rough road for them with COVID and everything going on. So it'll be interesting to hear Terry's take on some of that stuff. So we are working on Terry to come back for a November episode, and we'll see where it's going.
And Dave, if you're watching, get some more of those PDFs up for sale because I'm getting bored.
Okay, so, well, I when I was talking to Terry the other day, they're having trouble, and I don't think everyone realizes this. It's not as simple as copy and paste. It's the way some of those things were saved originally. Data over time, depending on what they're saved on, corrupts. So some of those things are missing. So it looks like they might have to even just scan some issues in. And so, I'd love to see all those available on PDF. And let's hope it gets there. There.
A quick news item. I do have a quick news item.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 weeks ago Saturday or 3 weeks ago Saturday was the 50th anniversary of the first showing Creature Features here in Chicago on Channel 9 WGN. So for all of our Channel 9 WGN Chicago viewers or ex-Chicago viewers,
50
that was
years.
kind of cool.
I watched that as a kid. I remember. I totally remember that.
And the other news is Eddie's got a microphone.
He's got a new microphone. Yeah.
Oh, can't wait.
So that was fun teaching Scott how to work a mic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. Hopefully everyone kind of notices the upgrade in sound. This one. We both have brand new mics. I had one the last one. Scott's got a new one now.
I had a new camera last time, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, we're rocking and rolling. I think we're good for a while. There's some other little things I want to upgrade, but that's going to be a while. And
my teeth cleaned.
I'm doing that tomorrow.
I do need a haircut.
Yes, you do.
For those of you watching, this is not Neil DeConte. I'm here.
So, all right. Further along in news and reviews, what's our next thing you found?
And this is on one of the Aurora groups. I'm not on any Garage Kit groups, but I'm still on some Aurora groups. And I hope I don't pronounce this guy's name wrong. Michael Berglund painted and photographed all of these classic 13 Aurora model kits, monster model kits, and has made a calendar. I say it's awesome. Like $21 or $24. Check out his webpage or go to I'll see if I can post the info or give you the info to post in the information for the episode.
Yeah, we'll get it in there.
I just thought it was really cool. I think he says they're going to ship in November. And yeah, just kind of cool.
Yeah. And coming up next, we have a Luke and Tauntaun.
Oh, actually, no, that is Han Solo.
Or Han Solo, sorry.
And Tauntaun.
I'm looking at the little thumbnail.
And that is by a gentleman named David Stan. And Stan Arts, STANNARTS. Okay. And I have a Frankenstein bust that he did. It's just beautiful. And this is partially cast, and I think some of the parts are 3D printed as well. And I don't know what he sells it for. I just thought it was cool, for years. And now, again, the Star Wars guys kill me. I don't know how accurate it is, but it looks cool to me. So it's, but I'm sure it's pretty good size. My guess would be from looking at it, it's probably pretty good size.
While we're on Star Wars, I have some Star Wars news. A little boy's dream came true this week. Actually, last Friday. Back in 1994, the best video game in the history of video games came out, and it was TIE Fighter, where you pilot TIE Fighters around. It was a sequel to the X-Wing game. And ever since 1994, I wanted a sort of sequel to that game. And last week, a game called Star Wars Squadrons came out, where it's completely updated graphics. It's done for VR, which I don't have yet, which I totally need to get now. And you fly starfighters, X-Wings and TIE Fighters, and it's gorgeous. It's hard. I'm playing with a joystick and a throttle, and I feel like a giant nerd. And anyone else, pick it up. If you're a fan of the old LucasArts games, it's got the same mechanics, and I'm blown away. I'm so happy by it.
Is it available on the platforms, the PlayStation?
It is on, yeah, it's on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I think I just got my ass kicked by some people playing on consoles, and I'm on the PC, and I think that's because I am using a joystick and it's a million times harder, but get it. Like I have to get VR for this thing now. It looks really cool. The sound is awesome. The ships that are in there. My only thing is that it's a little light on content. It's a really cheap price, but I hope in the long run they add more ships, more cool things from other parts of the series. The game kind of takes place after the Battle of Endor, so you're kind of between the new trilogy and the old, like Mandalorian timeline, it looks like maybe. So pick it up. If you like Star Wars games, it's great. If you're a TIE Fighter fan, it's awesome. The other Star Wars news I have, and this is going long, is the TV show Rebels, which is a cartoon. I finally started watching that, and I'm almost towards the end of it. Please watch that show. If you were like me and you put it off because it looked too kiddie, there are some really great Star Wars things in there, and it really ties in some things between all of the Star Wars. It's so well done. Like I almost cried the other day in one part. It was really it was sad. Someone died and it was really sad. So anyway, that's enough Star Wars news. That Han on Tauntaun looks really good. And we'll continue with the model kits.
The next piece I saw online that it really struck me. Paul Gill has a line of hammer busts that are all really nice.
They're
all sculpted by Jeff
They're really
Yeager.
nice.
And to me, this one just really stood out to me. And it's I believe that's Chris Lee as the Mummy. Again, I'm not a Hammer fan, so don't shoot me. But I looked at this piece, and it's just really beautiful. And I just think it's really nicely sculpted. I think you can there's a figure model group on Facebook that Paul runs. There's Gilman's Garage on Facebook. I think there's Gilman Productions. Or get a hold of Paul Gill himself on Facebook. He's on the Clubhouse too. I think he's Graybeard on the Clubhouse. And I don't know how much the piece is, but
it looks really good. It really does.
It's just a really nicely sculpted piece. I think anyway. So yeah. I liked it.
Kudos.
All right.
And this next one, we both agreed on this when we were going through the things we found. I think this is the one that stood out to me the most too.
So this is Goodfellas resin. Angelo Valletta, I think it is. If I'm wrong, Angelo, I'm sorry.
Kick him in the shin when you see him.
Angelo's the same guy that put out the Willy Wonka kit, Goodfellas resin, and I think they've done some other kits as well. But this is just the rendering, and there's some other shots of the rendering that you can see with the detail on the front of the shirt there, the elf outfit. But
yeah, it's Buddy the Elf. I mean, that's awesome.
Buddy the Elf, yes, and it really is. And I'm not a Will Ferrell fan, but
do not let Jamie hear you say that.
This is one of the only movies he's in that this movie cracks me up.
It's a good movie.
He was so over the top. Yeah, it just, this movie cracks me up. This will be a fun piece, I think.
Yeah, it looks good. It's been a while.
Next one is this is a witch replacement head, Salem witch replacement head, put out by Pestilence Labs, Mark Worthling, sculpted by Jeff Yeager. And I have to say, the witch is not one of my favorite Aurora kits. Okay. And mainly because the head of the original is so horrible. But this is really nice. This fits really well on
it makes it look it makes it look a lot better. It does.
Yes. And that's Anthony Aranjo did the paint build up on that.
Who's that guy?
He's trouble. You don't know Anthony Aranjo?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
He's a Model Club veteran. Of course I know him.
Hair Out to Here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was in Model Club. Okay. And my next little thing that I saw, and I talked about the two other Wacky Racers kits that they're re-releasing, and they are also re-releasing this one, the Creepy Coupe. Styrene kit collectors will know this is one of the harder styrene kits to get in that series. The first two that they released are the easier two. Then there's this one and the Peter Perfect Turbo Terrific. So I'm assuming they're going to do that one too. Those were the four that were done. And this is available on Steve Iverson's site, Cult TV Man, for pre-order. And I'm excited about it because years ago I gave my set of these to Ed Boukley. What'd
you do that for?
Because Ed's my friend.
Oh yeah, I'm just kidding.
All right. And then we have that's all the new stuff that's coming out. I mentioned Jesse's Dracula kit for his Halloween Nightmares a couple episodes ago and showed the picture of it. We got a sneak peek of Jim Capone's fantastic paint job.
That looks gorgeous.
I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Yeah.
Jim really nails it with these. And it's just, the more I see this thing, the more I think I'm going to buy it because it's just.
You have to now. After all the talking about it, you have to.
Maybe. We'll see.
Jesse, he's going to buy it if he doesn't.
I've just become more selective about what I get to sit on the shelf in the box now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, what happened to retirement, man? You were going to build stuff.
Yeah, I know. We're working. The next photo is something I found, and I showed you this, and I remember when I showed you this, you said, this is awesome. So this is from an Angel Fink kit. And this guy took this, and I think there's fiber optics in it and stuff. I forgot. I think it was one of the Aurora boards or plastic kit boards that I am still on. But I just thought this looked so cool. Nitroglycerin, nitro, and just the exploding, stuff in there. I just think
it's well done. Like,
great job. I can't wait to see the completed kit. And when he posts those pictures, maybe I'll send him and we'll give him a shout out to his name. If you're watching, I'm sorry I did not grab that information, but we will give you credit because
we'll get it up there. Do you have any more news and reviews?
I do actually. I got some stuff in the mail, so let's have some fun. Hold on.
Ooh, it's like the postman just got here.
It's show and tell.
It's show and tell time.
So the first thing is not really a review, but it's kind of cool. This is probably the first Aurora kit I have bought in forever. And the reason I bought this one
and what is that?
This is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And the reason I bought this is one of the kits they reverse engineered polar lights.
Yeah. Move it to your other side. There you go.
Sorry.
You're blocking your new microphone. We got to learn how to use it.
This is one of the kits that they re-engineered. And I guess people have told me there's some slight differences. And where a lot of the reissues are out of the same Aurora molds. So it was cheap enough. I said, I want to pick this up. Eventually I'll sell the box because all I really want is the kit. And there's actually people that collect these boxes. It's not a great box. It's got a little ding there and stuff. But
what's a box go for?
It was kind of cool though to open it up and see all these old Aurora colors and the instructions and all that, like the old days.
What's a box go for? Empty.
Oh, I don't know. It depends. Maybe cheaper, maybe not even worth selling. Who knows? The other thing I got, Cult TV Man, again, great customer service. The Atlantis reissue of The Forgotten Prisoner of
Castel Marais.
Whatever. Okay. And what I was really impressed with is the condition of these boxes. I mean, look at it. It's perfect.
Yeah, it showed up really nice.
And it's really got that old Aurora feel. And they even did a little story in the back about it, which is kind of cool. And Godzilla is on the way.
Cool.
And what I did see about the Godzilla is they molded it in a very similar color to the original Glow Godzilla.
Is that purple? Oh, I did. We didn't talk about
turquoise.
Turquoise.
The turquoise. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's what I was going to tell you. I went and I checked mine. It's the purple.
It is the purple.
Yep. So it is an old original.
Okay. The other thing I picked up from Monsters in the Woods, John Deere, is this beautifully sculpted Boris Karloff as the son of Frankenstein.
I really like that.
And I want to say it's supposed to be 1/6 scale, but I think it's bigger. So let's see.
I've only built one Son of Frankenstein, and that was from Mike Falsigno, and it was the 3-figure set.
This is 14 inches. 14? I don't know if you can see because I'm in the way. Yeah, but anyway, it's 14 inches tall.
Well, if you guess what, a 6-foot person is supposed to be 12 inches. Yeah. So that might be about.
That might be a little bigger. I mean, the monster's supposed to be taller, and I'm going to stop so it'll focus. Oh, I got out of focus all of a sudden, Jason. What do I do?
I don't know. Oh, you're
there.
Back.
It is. Okay. Yeah. So, cats are really nice.
He can't even work his own camera still.
This is hollow.
It's hollow. What's the price on that?
You
remember?
$175 somewhere in that area. Got a nice base with some chain. Okay.
Cool. That's a really cool piece.
And then along with that, John has done a series of quarter scale busts for the Universal Monsters, and I have them all. And the last one he did, he sent me, and I'm going to show it here in a second. And it is the Phantom of the Opera.
Ah, that's cool. That's good.
And again, another Jaeger sculpt, and I don't know if I can get too close without it going out of focus.
We might have to get us each a second camera to do this stuff. That's our upgrade. We're gonna each get a second, get you a second camera so we can do close-ups.
I showed the creature that I painted in the one episode.
Yeah.
And this is it's a nice set to pick up. And the thing about busts, and we covered this, that's something you clean up and you could maybe even paint in a day, just screwing around.
Yeah.
So and again, Jeff did a knockout bang up job on this. Really cool. So that's all I got.
Hey, you know what? I think that might be our best news and reviews since we started. We actually had stuff to show. So because you spent money this time.
Yeah, I have some stuff on order from the gentleman that did those cartoon kits, and they're actually going to be 3D printed though. But,
okay.
I have some stuff coming. The Snagglepuss that I showed, the Quick Draw McGraw, and the George Jetson Walking Astro or Trelfaz for those that got it. And so hopefully I'll have those next time.
Excellent. Let's move on. Let's move on to the workbench. What?
I think he's working on a secret squirrel too.
Oh, a secret squirrel.
So if that turns out good, I'll probably be buying that too.
Excellent. Hey, your cartoon dreams are coming true. Someone's making your stuff.
Yep. I just, I hope the cat, I don't know much about 3D printing, so I don't know how much cleanup will be involved or anything like that.
There shouldn't be much, actually. So you might be happy.
Felt like I'm going to build it.
You should. You should. You promised me when you were going to start building some stuff.
Well, when I see stuff like that, Nitro,
yeah,
that's just very inspiring because that is just it's an Ed Roth kit. It's an old Ed Roth kit. And it's just such a basic kit. But when you see somebody take something like that and just do something like that to it, it just really knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
And that's just a styrene kit.
Yeah.
So it's,
so we're going to see a lot of that, I think, with what our interview does today too. What Matt Lawrence does with some of his stuff.
Oh yeah.
Let's move on to the workbench. Scott, have you built anything? Have you made anything? Have you created anything? No.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, no, I didn't think so.
That's for another day.
Okay, so I feel like I've been building a lot. I have not done a little painting. Worked on my ghost a little bit as far as paint to the point where I was going to start working on the body. It's impossible to show on camera, but I was going to paint it in pieces, but I decided to put them all together because of the way I'm painting it. And I noticed I built it. I don't know if it's the kit is engineered that way or if I screwed something up along the way, which is probably what happened. But there's a gap kind of between the back of his chin and his beard where his neck should be. So I'm gonna have to putty that in. That's one little thing I've been still working on. I got to do. But what I've mostly been building is I got just Warhammer terrain. This sounds crazy, but you see these sprues? There was about like 8 of these, and these are like solid plastic, and it's to build different game terrain pieces. So it's cleaning up edges and sanding. So that's been taking a lot of time. Been working on those the most. I did pick up some modeling materials. I wanted to talk about. It's not so much a modeling material, but I got some foam mo that I wanted to try. And when I first opened the thing, it felt just like Model Magic, which if you haven't used, it's real squishy foam white stuff. And I was like, knowing from work that stuff is very, very fragile, I was like, there's no way this stuff's going to work for what they say it is. So I went to YouTube and typed in foam mo versus Model Magic. And someone did the same video I was thinking of doing where they compared the two, and Model Magic cracks in half. Basically, this has some flex to it. It's great for making, it's used for cosplay to make like rivets and bolts and sword hilts and things so that are not very heavy when you make them. I think this stuff might be really good to build out base area without a lot of weight and then putting like a coat of AVs over the top of it. So I'm going to give it a try for a couple things. And the other thing I won't stick around much longer, is I finally got some style runs from Badger, the 3 gray, black, and white primer to give a try, because I've been hearing lots of good things about it. And I've really been using the Zenithal priming technique where it's black, white, and gray kind of all over the place. But to do your pre-shading, something I'm going to teach you how to do one day. So I'm going to try it for that and just get back to painting my ghost and get that done because I'm tired of it. But that's about it for my workbench. I know. Everyone else is too. Yeah, that's it for workbench, I think.
So I want to ask a question on the Warhammer thing.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you're going to think I'm being a smartass, which I am kind of.
Always.
So you're building those because you play the game.
I have not actually played this game.
You've not actually played the game. So my question was going to be, do we really need to take the time to seam that stuff if all you're really doing is painting it to play the game? Or are you painting it to
therein lies the problem. Is it a display piece or is this a gaming piece? A lot of those guys don't do a lot of that. If it is but I'm going to see those seams every time I play that game. So I am seaming and sanding every little thing. So, and I don't know if you can even see, but these are really thick sprues to cut. And this is like, that you have to grind them off basically to get it down. The sanding's not so bad with the mold line scraper. That works really well. But I've been trying, especially when it comes to the figures, is like too. A lot of people don't seam those or putty those, but I have to. I really do. Otherwise, I won't be able to ever. And yeah, I hate. Anyway, I don't want to even talk about.
Perfectionism is the enemy. Okay.
I know. I have so many things. But yeah, that's the workbench. I've been actually working on stuff, so it's felt good. As far as videos go for my own site, again, I'm on computer all day. It's been tough, and to come home and try and stream, but gonna get back at it. Let's move on to our interview.
Let's go on to our interview.
We reached out to Matt Lawrence. Scott reached out to Matt Lawrence to have him come on as a guest. We saw what he was working on lately, and we're like, be an awesome guest. So anything you want to do to introduce Matt, Scott?
Well, I know Matt was happy. I think some of his works are going to be in the new AFM. One of the readers that got in there used his stuff. So I know he was a little stoked about that. And I really like this. He's going to kill me for mentioning this. This set he has for the Aurora Godzilla kit. And it was funny when we did the interview, and you'll see it. He really did this prior to Atlantis announcing they were re-releasing it. Okay. And he doesn't, he likes to do things in limited runs, and now they're re-releasing this kit. So I'm sure he's going to get inundated with people that want this thing still. So you'll have to take that up with him. I talked to him. I have to send him some money for a set, but it's a cool set. We talk about that pretty early on. But Matt does a lot of crazy stuff, and he's kind of a niche within our niche hobby, and niche, whatever. Castlemaire, whatever.
See, we're gonna have these fights
but he's a good guy. I got to know him a little better at Jersey Fest this last year. He came down and sat at the table with me and a bunch of other guys, and he was drinking some good bourbon, and we had a good time, just chit-chatting all night. And he's got cool stuff, but it's nobody else does it. Guys do Starship lighting, and so he decided to tap go the other way, I think, with a lot of it. And you'll see it. It. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna get out of here and get to Mr. Lawrence's interview.
Enjoy. Hello, everybody. We are back with our interview for this episode, and that interview goes to the light of the hobby, Matt Lawrence. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
I'm really good, guys. How are you?
Doing okay. Scott?
We're great.
First of all, thank you so very much for doing this with us. It's an honor to have you here. After seeing your work all over the place, it really is an honor to be here with you. So thanks again for coming.
You're welcome. I appreciate being here.
Scott, you have anything to add yet?
I don't have anything to add yet. Go ahead. Yeah, shoot away.
Yeah,
Give me some questions.
We're good. We'll keep it nice and easy.
Yeah.
Matt, seriously,
I don't want to disrupt anything.
No, I know. You always disrupt things. Matt, how'd you get started in the hobby? How'd you find the world of Garage Kids?
Well, it goes back to when I was a little kid. I mean, obviously I was doing, Aurora model kits when I was a little kid. My father used to like to buy me models. And I think my first model I ever built was the Cyclops and Robinson family from Lost in Space by Aurora. And that was followed by the robot from Lost in Space. And that was followed by the Enterprise from Star Trek. And all of those were catastrophes.
They usually are. The first ones usually are.
The first one was at the moment in time when we weren't allowed to use airplane glue because my mother didn't want to hear anything about those kids sniff that stuff. It's not good for them. They'll get high. He's only 7 years old. And so I built that with Elmer's tube glue, and didn't stay put for very long. Actually, my sisters, because I was crying on the floor one day, and my sisters convinced my mother that it would be okay, and I never looked back.
I think I'm the result of the parents not stopping with the glue, and man, it's
anyone that's ever built an Enterprise kit. And a lot of people don't know that was an Aurora kit before it was an AMT kit. The way those warp nacelles go on, and I can only imagine trying to use Elmer's glue and trying to get those things to hold straight.
Well, by that time I was allowed to use testers. But the funny thing with that model, and it's been an ongoing theme with me all my life. I like copper paint, and painted my Enterprise copper.
Copper's a cool color. It really is.
Yeah. And it was okay until, I fingered it up a lot, running up and down the steps, making it fly and all that. And then I hit the bottom landing in my parents' house or my house I grew up in, and then both nacelles snapped off.
You can't hold it, Captain.
Yeah, the very first version of that kit had like hoops with a little peg that went through them to hold them on, and
yeah, I think they all did. The AMT one did too. That's what I remember. The hoops, the little round peg that would go in, and
yeah. I still have that model kit.
I was just going to ask, do you still have any of those?
I still do. Yeah, I stripped it. I had it in the 80s. I pulled it out, and I had, I work in the electronics industry, and I had this mindset that I was going to put motors in there, lights into the nacelles and all that stuff, and it just got shelved because it was being, it was too hard at the time with the materials that were out there. Motor geared or any of that stuff, and I didn't understand what speed controllers were about at the time. But
I don't know what a speed controller is now, so you're ahead of me.
It's something that speeds up and slows down the motor.
Just wait till you see what he doesn't know what is. Just wait.
Just shut up.
So I mean, in general terms, I built Aurora models when I was a little kid, all that kind of good stuff, and then just like everybody else, life and school and cars and girls and all that stuff took over, and then I got married, and so I went out of it for a long time, and then I went back into it, and in the 2000s is when I really got back into it again. And at some point in time, I was building the Mobius Dracula kit, and I was going on to message boards on like Hobby Talk. I didn't know about the clubhouse at the time, but I went on to Hobby Talk, and I was asking people where can I, this is Bella on Broadway, so I wanted some footlights for it, and I wanted lighted torches and what kind of stuff's out there. And I kept getting crickets for answers. So I said, well, I work in the electronics industry, and I should be able to whip something like that together. And I did, and built up my model that way. And I put them on, posted pictures on Hobby Talk, and people said, oh, where'd you get the fancy footlights and the torches? And I said, well, I made them. And they say, are you selling them? And I'm like, I am now.
That is always the answer. I am now.
So that's where Starlighting Projects came from.
So what year was that? How long have you been around as Starlighting Projects?
I started it in probably 2009, 2010. I didn't really do anything actively with it until about 2011.
Okay. So about 10 years almost now.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be in the garage kit industry, still making things.
Yeah, that's true.
You're still around. Most people take their money and not their money, but their pride and like run after a while. But you're still here. That's great.
I'm still here. I guess part of the reason why I'm still here is because I have a sort of a niche little world that I live in.
Yeah.
When I started Starlighting, I thought about, I was coming up with the ideas, about what kind of products I wanted to make. I thought about lighting up spaceships and, the Enterprise and X-Wing fighters and stuff like that. And that's why it's Starlighting Projects, whatever. And then I just really sort of came to the conclusion that there's a lot of companies out there that were already doing that. It was going to be a lot of work, and I really didn't want to get involved in it. My company is Starlighting Projects because I like to do short runs of things, and I don't want to make 100 of something. It's too time consuming, and I get bored. I'm a project oriented individual and always have been. I work in the electronics industry and have for about 40 years. And the stuff that I always liked doing the best was setting up facilities, training people, showing them how to operate the equipment. And I worked for contract manufacturers a long time. And that's basically, they want to come in, they need to have 10, 50, 100, 1,000 boards made, and then you build something else, and you build something else, and you have a big customer base. And I enjoy the process of setting jobs up, setting equipment up, and setting facilities up. I enjoy doing that. I don't really like running production. It's once I've figured it all out, I just want to move on to the next subject.
Gotcha. If you can pick, are you a Starship guy or are you a Monsters guy?
Both.
Both? Good mix of both?
I've gone in and out of both of them. But I like to do both, right? For the majority of Starlighting Projects life, it's been all about monsters. And, again, that's sort of that there was nobody really supporting that I could find. Nobody was making lighting specifically for monsters or superheroes or anything like that. And I want to create environment for the stuff that I'm, for models, for my model scenes. A lot of what I do because I want that.
Right. That's what I was going to say. For your modeling, like you're kind of just a mix of both then.
Right. And I'm not a really great painter, so that's why I light things up.
You know what?
You would think you would want it to be darker if you're not a great painter, so that no one can see.
I think you know the trick. There's a lot of people who aren't very good painters that throw some special colored lights on stuff, and it instantly makes it look better.
Yeah, footlights have been a mainstay. Footlights and torches have been really a mainstay of my company, and I've sold hundreds of both of them. And I've seen people do good things and bad things with them. I mean, if you have let's say you're lighting a scene of some sort. I like to use colored lighting in the background. In a Frankenstein lab, it's good to flood the back walls with green lighting, and it's good to flood the figure itself or to highlight the figure with white lighting so that you can actually see the paint job. And the trick is not have them be so bright that that anything's overwhelming anything. I had a guy in England that built a Man of 1,000 Faces Janus kit years ago, and he wanted every colored light that I had, and he used every colored light. And I'm like, okay, whatever you want to do there. And at the end of the day, it really, when I first saw it, I went, oh no. And but after it kind of grew on me. It makes sense to light up the individual busts, different colors and all that. And he did light up line with a white light, so it was good.
Cool.
What was your first Wonderfest?
That's that same question I was just going to ask. What was your first Wonderfest?
I want to say it was 2011. 2011 or 2012.
Was that as the company or as you just by yourself?
Always as a company. I've never gone to any of these shows just as an attendee. The very first show that I ever did in Pittsburgh, they have something called Steel City Con. They have it 3 times a year. It's at the Monroeville Convention Center, and essentially it was a toy show. Now it's become much more of a retired actor show, but they still have toys and all that. And I decided,
yeah, what's up with that? Most shows have turned into that. Like, it's just autographs everywhere.
Losing their focus.
Man, it's awful.
So they took over like a bigger section of that building, and so that the actors are on one side of it and the toy shows on the other side of it. And I didn't do particularly well, but I kind of enjoyed the experience of it. Second show I did was another show here called Monster Bash, which is more a movie, classic movie convention, and it's a really good show. It's been around for 20 or so years. If you're looking for old movies, and there's a lot of the old actors and all that stuff there, but they had Harryhausen there, and they had Bob Burns there, and they had a lot of really good people over the years at it. That is the one show that I now do as an attendee. It's the only show that I get to do that with. And then I guess the very first show in the hobby that I did was the Jersey Fest when they were at the college. It was the first time they left Dave's basement and went to another facility, and that was a kind of an interesting thing. That was an interesting experience for me, because that's really the first time that I've been to a specific garage show, hobby show. And the people that I encountered there, I remember one of the first people that walked up to me and saw my stuff was Scott Kelly. And he came up. I have nice displays that look like they're stages, almost look like puppet stages, whatever. So I wanted curtains, for it. And I told my daughter, I said, think Lily Munster. And she said, I know what you're looking for. So that's where they came from. But I had these, my stuff set up. It was really hot that day for setup. They didn't have the air conditioning on there. It was in September, and it was like 85, 90 and really muggy and all that stuff. And I went in and I was soaking wet, whatever. I got finished and dried off. They turned the air conditioning on, and one of the first people that walked up to the table was Scott Kelly, and he says, "Where have you been? Where did you come from? We've needed you forever." Made me feel fairly welcome. I met a lot of people there. Ray Santaleri, Joe Ladowdy, obviously the showrunners. That's where I met Robert Trock. That day was the day that I met Robert Trock. And
that guy.
That guy's trouble. That guy is trouble. I'm going to tell you.
He's one of my favorites. He
is. He's one of ours.
Did he get you to do some push-ups or jumping jacks or something?
I wish. I have back problems that may lead me into surgery at some point in time. I'm trying to fight it off, and he keeps trying to help me do this stuff. But he's on every day. He's on Instagram and he's on Facebook, and he said, I was like, Robert, you got to stop doing that. It was like, I wake up in the morning and you're hurting me. The first thing I do is I feel pain in my back because I'm
just watching them
over backwards. But at any rate,
as everyone knows, Atlantis is re-releasing a lot of the monster kits, and anyone that hasn't seen it, you have a Glow Godzilla, a set of Godzilla parts. It's a real limited run. I loved it. I love the idea. I'm gonna have to talk to you when we're done because I definitely want a set. I love
shipped my first ones today. Shipped about half of them.
Okay. Yeah, the kit's not even out yet, but it's right. But most of us have it already anyway.
A lot of people do, sure.
I look at it and I go, that's an idea that someone should have had years ago. I mean, do you ever look at some of the stuff you do and go, how come no one did this years ago?
True that, especially with the atomic breath. That was one of the things that my buddy Matt McWhirter said to me when Matt helped me majorly with that and other projects. And I want to talk about him here in a little bit, but that was one of the things he says I never could figure out why they didn't figure out some way to light that. Back in the day, at least with some great and weak bulbs, and I can't figure out why they didn't put an atomic breath in his mouth. Really, I wasn't planning on doing as much to it as I did. I found my my Aurora kit broken up in pieces in a box, and I had the square glow box kit, so it came with glow and non-glow parts in it, and I put the glow in the dark spine in mine and glued it into it, but I still had the original the original non-glow part in it. And I said, well, I'd like to be able to do something with that. Maybe I'll do, like 10 of them and be done with it, because this was before Atlantis had decided that they were going to release that kit.
Mm-hmm.
So, work with Matt. We made a new mold for that spine, and then the part itself is cast in a clear, and it has a special UV additive in it. So there are 6 LEDs in each of the fins of the spine that basically, whenever you turn the battery on, the LEDs glow, and of course they cause the spine to glow. So they're glowing fluorescently. And then the same thing was true with the atomic breath. I originally wanted to embed, we were going to overmold an LED into the end of it to light it up, but we did some experiments and we really couldn't come up with a satisfactory way to do it. You basically just couldn't get enough light to transfer through it. Basically, there we go. I can see a little bit here. So we put the light down in here, and I was only being able to get the light to go up to about here, and there was just nothing we could do. Part of it's because of the shape of this spine. If it was completely, cylindrical and all that and much more plain, I might have been able to pull it off, but it just wasn't working. We also toyed with the idea of just, putting in glow-in-the-dark powder into it, and that didn't work. So what we ended up doing was we just ended up using the same UV additive to it. I don't know how well this will show up on screen.
If you do it in front of your shirt, it's good.
And half of my screen is cut off because I've got the.
Okay, I can see it.
Okay.
So it fluoresces like mad. It's a nice blue color. In the picture here, it looks aqua, but it's really a nice azure blue, I guess you want to call it. So
that is so cool.
And then the other thing that we did was we made nameplates. So that we just used a regular resin for that, and we used Smooth On's Ignite, which is a colorant, which also fluoresces under black light. So I made them like a nice minty green. The nameplates are made of a nice minty green. And
so about the nameplate, real quick. So there is no light in the nameplate. It just glows under the UV.
Under UV, it's
okay.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Same thing. Same thing is true with the breath. If you flood the whole area with UV light, the whole thing looks just fabulous. It really just looks great. So, and you get extra kick to the spine. Now there's LEDs. If you put light from an external source into it, you can do that. It glows a lot brighter. And I thought about including some other a flashlight or something. I just have included a little keychain, which basically is a UV light. It works out pretty well.
That was a good
cool.
effect.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Look at
That's
that.
pretty cool.
We got to get some special effects like that, Scott.
Yeah.
So that stuff all glows pretty nicely. UV flashlights and that kind of thing are really easy to come by. You can find a zillion of them on Amazon. And so I just said, I was really trying to keep the cost of the kit down. People wanted me to put sound into it and the Godzilla's roar, and they wanted, the theme music and all that. And I could do all that stuff, but it's really a question of
cost.
It's a $30 kit.
Right.
Godzilla kit's a $30 kit. Do they really want to spend, $100 for a lighting effect for it? This is not Star Trek. People will spend $100 for the Enterprise and $500 for a lighting kit for it. And that's just not where I wanted to go. And again, I felt like it was always going to be a short run. The spines were a bit of a challenge to do. They take almost an hour from once the part's cast and I get it into my hand, each one takes about an hour to prep it, so that it does its thing. That part is really thin and was not easy to cast.
It turned out beautiful. It's a great effect. It looks really cool. The pictures people are looking at are just, you can see you can tell there's some love put into that stuff. All this stuff actually that's coming.
Yeah, I wanted it to be elegant in some fashion.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be something that wasn't just,
And like you said, it's a really cheap, simple kit, and to really like make it pop like that, it's really, really, really fabulous.
It's fun to do.
Yeah.
Challenge. Some of it I was pulling my hair out, and Matt was pulling some of his hair out too. Did I go away?
No, I was looking to see how much hair you pulled out.
Yeah, I thought you were making fun of me, jerk.
Let me pull my rug up.
Yeah.
I don't wear a rug.
So I should start. Next one I'm going to.
Jason. Jason and I were putting the slideshow together yesterday.
Sure.
And there's one of the pictures you sent us was a photo of you with the electrical cabinet and the cosmic ray diffuser. Mm-hmm. And Jason.
Well, no, hold on, wait, time out. Time out. What? There are a lot of people in our audience. We have a younger audience. We have about 5 million listeners.
Probably. Oh, here we go. Don't make excuses already.
And I'm pretty sure that most people don't know what a Strickfaden is.
So he says to me, "What is Strickfaden?" Okay. And I blew up on him. So I said, Lawrence is going to strangle you.
He's a kid.
I said, Lawrence is going to strangle you. And I wouldn't tell him. I said, you want me to tell you? And he goes, no, just let it go until tomorrow. And but I'm like, you have no idea what Strickfaden.
I have no idea.
And so Matt, knock yourself out.
Hold on. Yeah. Let me defend myself a minute.
Oh, for shit.
I know what they are. I know that that's from the movie. Like, what? But I've never heard the name Strickfaden. It's on your shirt in the picture. I have no idea.
Matt, you're turning red.
I know. I knew I was going to catch hell for this. So,
ooh, yeah. Ooh.
And all the shame that Scott has gotten over the episodes. It's my turn. Lay it on me. Go ahead.
I'm going to try to keep this under 5 minutes because we could talk about this guy for hours.
Okay.
Kenneth Strickfaden is the guy. All right. Kenneth Strickfaden was the guy that made all the machines for the original Frankenstein movie. And he had a storied career, but he was the only time he ever got screen credit was for Young Frankenstein. But Kenneth Strickfaden was a really interesting guy. There's a biography out there of him, right? You can see like learn something about his history, and you can see some of the sketches of the equipment and all that stuff. But he was a tinkerer. He was really inspired by Edison and by Tesla, more by Tesla, I guess, because you could see Tesla coils all over his stuff and Jacob's ladders and things of that nature. But he was he basically was at one point in time, he had been in the military, and he got out of the military, and he was a handyman. He was a photographer. He ended up doing circuses. And at circuses, whenever the circus comes into town, they have to do these things with crazy electricity from different sections of town. They have to bring in electricity from different directions, and he was the circus electrician. He also liked to collect junk. And one of the things, he would collect any kind of military surplus, industrial surplus kind of equipment, and he would hobble them together and and make them do something. And he would add lights and coils and other big capacitors to them so that they would have big arc discharges and all that. And he made up an inventory of them. And that he basically started hawking around in Hollywood, saying, I have these machines and all that. Well, when James Whale was making Frankenstein, he got his set people to go off and said, we need to have some machines that look like Metropolis. He liked the Metropolis lab, and he wanted the Frankenstein lab to look like that. And some of these guys knew who Strickfaden was. And so Strickfaden brought his sketchbook along and said, this is what I've got. They went to his shop where he had all this stuff going on and off. And they said, this is the stuff. And they basically hired him as a contractor, basically to bring in his stuff, set it up, and, make it play while they were filming. And it wasn't like props that Universal made. They were stuff that they rented basically from him and had him run. And I like to tell this story to youngsters. to young people, because it's like when you watch movies now, and it's all CGI, and there's very little practical in them, and they do all this crazy stuff. And if you bring up the subject of Frankenstein to young people, and I mean people even younger than you, if you bring up Frankenstein, they'll go, "Oh, it's an old black and white movie. It's dull and boring." Then I say, well, the one thing that you'll remember about that movie is undoubtedly the lab scene. And in the lab scene, you see all this electricity flying around and all these sparks and all that stuff. And I was like, that wasn't CGI. That was practical effects. There were millions of volts going on the set while that was being filmed. And then they their head tilts a little bit, and they go, maybe I'll give that another look.
That's fine to see.
It was the real deal.
I'm kind of glad I didn't know this, because this story wouldn't have happened, right? I just thought, like you just said, I thought it was a Universal guy, prop guy, just made this stuff, weird stuff. No idea. So I'm glad I didn't know. And
so his stuff appeared probably in about 100, maybe about 100 movies during his career. I think that I know that at the end of his career, the last thing that happened specifically with his equipment in a film was in Young Frankenstein. Mel Brooks said, I'd like to do, that same kind of thing with my movie. And the people find out, set people went off and they found out that Strick Fadden still was alive, and he still had that equipment. And some of it were original props. Some were things that he repurposed over the years and all that. I also have been told, I've never been able to really verify this, but apparently they filmed his arc discharges, these big, massive, plasma discharges of electricity, and they used. I've been told that they used that for they edited that into whenever the Terminator was landed in L.A. in the ball of electricity.
Yeah.
That was a Strick Fadden ball of electricity.
Is there a book? Is there a book about just that chronicles all that, or anything?
It's not really. No, I know somebody that's working on that has some courses, and I don't really want to say much more.
Gotcha. So in order, when getting into your machines that you've,
sure.
Scott, go ahead, say the names, because I can't see them.
Ray diffuser.
Yeah. Wait, say it again.
And the cosmic ray diffuser. And hold on, I'm looking here. And the electrical cabinet, I think, is all he called that one. Is that correct?
The other one is the nucleus analyzer.
Yes.
They're too. Yes. The reason I don't know is because they're too small on my screen to read right now, because the way I have things set up. But
it's okay.
So in making each one of those, how did you go about finding the materials, and just watching movies over and over and over, or were there pictures, or did you get a hold of his sketches, or?
I have the book that was written about him, which does have some of his sketches in the book. They're not usually detailed. It's not like blueprints or any of that. It's just mostly it's from reference photographs and watching the movies in a loop over and over and over and over, and trying to figure out what sizes to make things. Originally I wanted to make them in 1/6 scale, and I just decided that it was going to be too difficult to shove electronics into them if they were that scale. So they ended up being about 1/5 scale, but force perspective, you can, if you look at it, I have 1/6 scale figures posing with them, and they look right.
Yeah.
Just how you set your scene up, how you force people to look at it and all. But so the reference photographs was primarily it. I have lots of them, hundreds of them, really.
So which one did you do first?
I did the nucleus analyzer first, because it was it was simpler. It didn't have all the stuff all over it. I got pictures of it. Again, these were machines that he cobbled together, that Strick Fadden cobbled together out of stuff that was, Army or military or, industrial surplus. And so the bottom of the nucleus analyzer, it looks like a mushroom, a bunch of mushrooms stacked up on top of one another. I had that sculpted for me by Brian McGuire. Scott, Brian?
Another troublemaker.
Troublemaker. Sure.
I don't know.
Love Brian.
I have a funny story about him, but maybe another time.
No, do it now. You got to do it now.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. He's always been really easy for me to deal with. The first time I met, the short version of it is that the first time I met him was at Monster Bash, and he kept walking up to my stages that said, and had signs all over them, do not touch. And at one point in time, when he thought I wasn't looking, he went over and he grabbed hold of something. He was like, "How does this work?"
It sounds just like someone Scott would be friends with,
And so I didn't particularly care for him, but after that, I met him again in another Monster Bash, and we started talking. And I knew he was a sculptor, and we talked about a variety of things. He's done a number of products for me. But at any rate, so getting back to the nucleus analyzer, the first thing that happened was that the ceramic mushroom insulator got made. I used a piece of PVC pipe, which I have cut into sections basically for the body. I sculpted the front and rear panels of them. I sculpted the spinning motor on it. I sculpted the sparks, the clear sparks that are on the front of it. Figured out how to put it all together, and
it's gorgeous. Like, they're just simply gorgeous. Like, just as like little pieces of art, they are just.
That's what my buddy Matt says, is it doesn't make any difference if they're strict-fed or not. There's a lot of people out there that would want that, basically. Yeah. An odd looking thing or steampunky looking.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you started out with the Doom boxes. So, I mean, you started that way, and then you just kind of like, well, let me see if I can just improve on that and make it more accurate.
Well, the Doom boxes were they were always inspired by strict fed, and each one of them has its own name that sounds kind of like a strict fed name. I have one here called the Synaptic Synchronizer, and that's the one that has the brain in the chamber in the top of it. And I just made up a list of them at one point in time because I was offering those as custom builds, and I've never done two the same. Done about 15 of them for people. I come up with an idea for a meter or a switch or something like that, and I make 50 of them, and I throw them into a bin, and then I come up with another idea, and I throw those parts into a bin, and then I've built up some of these. I take them to shows. Mostly, I only build these for people that I've met face to face, because they are time consuming, and my life gets in my way from time to time, and I need them. And they're not cheap, and I need them to understand it. It might take me a year. Sometimes they take me 3 months. Sometimes they take me a year to go through the process. But what I basically do with them is that once I show them to them, they'll ask me, "How do you do them?" And I said, "Well, I do them by commission. They're one off." And and they ask me, basically how much it would cost to get, kinds of features that I've got on my display units, and I tell them, and then they'll say, "Well, okay, I want to do that." So the process after that goes is that they give me a down payment, and then I have some blank front panels, and I lay them down, and I lay a bunch of my meters and switches and things on them. I put them on there in an arrangement, take a photograph of it. I move them around or swap things out. I take 3, 4, 5 pictures. I send them off to the customer. The customer says, "That's the one I like," and so I just throw the other pictures away, and that's the one that I built. So they get to interact with the process a little bit. So that's a lot of fun, going back and forth talking about different features that they can have. And then it becomes, what do you want it? Do you want it to light? Do you want it to flash? Do you want it to blink? Do you want it to make noises? So on and so forth. So I've had people suggest that I make that kind of thing as a garage kit, and I just sort of can't bring myself to do it. It's like,
that
I want to dumb it down.
Yeah, that'll cheapen.
It's a nice thing. It's a lot of fun to do it, and I get to paint with my creative brush, whatever.
Yeah,
make some little mayhem. Now, the thing that I have that goes against me is that once I start doing them, right while I'm in the middle of it, I'll think of this other really good idea that would be a nice addition to it, and I'll say I have to do that too. And sometimes I make the customer pay for it, and sometimes I don't. If they want it, whatever. They ask me what the cost impact is, and it's kind of like, a guitar amplifier goes to 10. A Spinal Tap guitar amplifier goes to 11. Once I get to 11, I start pushing it to 13 or 14. I start adding other. I keep pushing it until it's sort of over the top almost.
The Doom box with the skull face in it with the blue.
Yes.
So that skull, like, just to take that one apart for a second, did you sculpt that? Did you find that found material? Like
this, the skull is the only thing that I did not sculpt myself. And that was a Brian McGuire thing.
Cool.
It was always intended to be the Bride of Frankenstein skull. It's got a cap on it, a metal cap that goes onto it. It's sort of bolted on. I put some electrodes onto it so that I could plug fiber optics into it. It's really crazy. I have it sitting here. If you want me to, I can do a real quick demo.
Sure, that'd be great.
This is a Doom box. This is the one we were just talking about. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but we'll give it a shot. The first thing, this is a silly thing, but that cost me a sound card just to basically make that one sound effect. Because I had to have it. When you flip the lever down, I had to have it. So
that's great.
What's going on here is that I have a group of LEDs up in the top of it that are shining down on the skull. And it's oversaturating on this camera, but essentially I have some circuitry in there that allows me to change the way that pulsates. So I can have it flashing really quickly, or let me see if I can get one or two of them going. So I can change the effect a little bit. So I can have it strobe or pulse or flicker.
That's so awesome.
So in addition to that, all right, these are UV LEDs up in here. This is where I push it to 11, 12, 13. These are UV LEDs in here. The skull is clear cast. Skull is clear cast, and then it has a UV tracer in it, so it's fluorescing under black light. I also have some fiber optics that are plugged into it. Those are attached to another effect that I have in here. Let me see, there's the button there.
Ooh. I love that. That green is awesome.
The head is being lit by the fiber optics.
Yeah.
So I have two light sources here. One that's coming down from the top, and then one that's coming in from all these fiber optics that are attached into it. And this is the synaptic synchronizer. Let's see if I can get that going. I can't get it going well enough. Let's give it a shot.
I noticed some copper paint there on those.
These?
Yeah.
Copper pipes.
Still copper, though.
Still copper.
Still copper.
They're real copper. They are real copper. Good here again.
Don't come by us. Someone will come by and steal those and resell them.
So the synaptic synchronizer, we have to make the electrons flow up to her brain through the fiber optics. So the scope is monitoring it. Have you had enough?
So no, I haven't actually. So that little screen, the thing at the bottom, is that something you buy, or do you make that light effect inside there?
I make it. Everything you see on here pretty much is something that I manufacture. Everything on there. The scope itself, I sell those as a separate thing if people want them. I buy the knife switches, but I modify them by putting a different handle and a different base onto them. The meters I make myself.
So what goes into a meter? That's one of my other first questions. Is that like a backing with a drop of epoxy on it? Or I don't want you to give that away, but is that similar? Like,
well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's something that I use gel medium a lot to do things. I am giving away a secret of some to some point. They're not easy to make either. Nothing to do. I can just pull the lever down and crank them up. Essentially, I print out a sheet of paper with those meter faces on them. I use a caboche on it, and I use a liquid medium or a gel medium. I place them on top of it. I let it dry for a day, and then I cut them apart, and then I have to sand the edges of them off, and they take hours to make them. So I sell them as sets, and some of them are good. Or I shouldn't say some of them are good. They're all pretty nice looking. The images that you catch off of the internet of meters, they're all the needles are all at 0, and that just makes me crazy. So I have a graphics artist buddy of mine here on the cosmic ray diffuser. I had him move put the needles in, different positions on it so that it looked real.
Right. Yeah.
Are they in different positions? Also, you buy the set. Are they in different positions, or are they all? Because I know I have a couple of the sets. Or are they all in the same place in the set?
They're all different.
Okay.
There's 9 in the set. There's nine different meters, and 4 of them are the same meter, but the needles in different positions.
And I like they say starlighting in them.
2 of them do.
2 of them do. Okay.
The ones that I put on the cosmic ray diffuser.
Okay.
If you look really, 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 really closely into there, and I did send you a zoom.
Yeah, we've got that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at that photo now.
I did do that. So
when you so in that other picture with the clear pieces on top.
Yes.
So you're doing your own casting for that, right? How hard is it to cast clear stuff and not get bubbles? And
some stuff I clear cast and some stuff I don't. It really depends on what
you're doing.
I primarily do open, pour casting myself, and like the windows in here are clear castings. They're only, the framework on it's 1/8 of an inch thick, and the rest of it's about 1/16 of an inch thick. And what I do is that I use a resin that's not smooth on 325. Everybody uses 325 because it ends up being amber colored when it's done. I buy something from Polytech, a resin that they use. Matt uses a different brand of epoxy, or a different brand of urethane resin. Both of them don't yellow, but essentially if they're fresh, I can open pour them and they don't bubble. If they're fresh, if you let them sit around, they cop moisture out of the air, you're done. They will get bubbles in them. And at that point, I'll use them for something that doesn't really need to be, water clear or close to water clear.
Gotcha.
Things that are like the Godzilla spines that Matt did them for me, and they could not be. They had to be pressure cast. There was just no way to do them. They were really hard for him to do them. I thought he was going to kill me at some point. I guess, can I segue a little bit into?
Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Into materials and such.
Yep.
This is an area that I don't see people do a lot. When you're talking about what do you think of the state of the hobby and all that, I think about the state of the hobby in terms of my buddy Matt. He said years ago when I met him through Mark Kalin. Scott knows Mark Kalin, right? He does nameplates.
Yep. No, I know Mark. I know Matt as well. So.
And I did. I wanted to do something with my nameplates that was pretty specific, and I was talking to Mark about, once you make the masters for me, I want to do this stuff. And he said, and I kept talking about all this crazy stuff I wanted to do, pushing materials around and experimenting with it. And he said, you really need to meet my buddy Matt. We met online. We talked for a bit. I met him at Wonderfest. Matt came up to my table at Wonderfest, and after he had looked at everything around, he said, I just wanted to introduce myself to you face to face. And then he left and he walked around, and Matt's somebody that was in the hobby a long time ago. And Matt is a genius at materials and molding and casting. He knows more about this stuff than many other people that I know. A lot of the people out there that are considered to be some of the best, not all of them, but a lot of the people that are considered to be the best are people that Matt showed how to do it. Matt showed people how to do this stuff. He's a very self-effacing person, a very modest person, but he knows his stuff. At any rate, he walked around Wonderfest after having not been there for 14 or 15 years. And he came back up to my table and he says, I want to talk to you. Can you get away for a little bit? So we went up and we sat down in his room, and he pulled out this little project that he was working on. It was a ghost in a bottle. And it's a cool thing because if you're looking at the bottle, it's clear. And if you shine UV light onto it, all of a sudden, this ghost appears inside. It looks like Casper. And it's a beautiful thing. And I said, oh, that's really cool. He said, can I buy one of those from me? He said, no, that's free. You can just have it. I said, why do you want to give it to me? He says, because I like what you're doing. He says, I've been away from the hobby for a long time. And again, molding, casting, kit producer, all that kind of good stuff. And he says, I've been away for a long time, and I was really looking forward to coming back to the hobby and seeing what had changed. And he said, it hadn't changed. He said, what you're doing is different, but everybody hire a sculptor, mold and cast, put it in a box, ship it out, be done with it. If you say clear casting, they don't want to hear it. If you say color, they don't want to hear it. Everybody does pretty much the same thing. If you open up a box of resin, what color is it? White or gray? That's pretty much it. My stuff, when you open it up, you shine a flashlight in it and it goes black. And it's just like, I like to play with materials and all that stuff. And we get crazy. I talked to him and I said, well, I'm thinking about doing this. And what do you think about that? Is it possible? And he's talked me out of doing a couple of things that were just too difficult, but he's willing to try. And that's a thing where I see a lot of people in the hobby don't. I don't want to shoot at them. A lot of people in the hobby do a lot of really good work. They do beautiful things, and they've gotten seam work down, significantly, and they pressure cast, and there's a lot of really good stuff in it. But they tend to stay in a very small comfort zone as far as what materials they want to use.
Why do you think that is?
Safe, less failure. It depends on what they're doing. I mean, if they're a big producer, there's some big producers out there, they really don't have time to play with this stuff that I'm playing with. As I said earlier, I don't want to make, a million of anything. I want to make 10, 20, 25, 30 of something. Another thing that Matt said to me is that I guess a thing that's sort of not real well discussed is that the whole point of resin casting is it was originally created for industrial purposes, to do prototyping. Like people do 3D printing now to do a prototype. I want to see what this thing's going to look like. That's what resin casting was originally invented for. It wasn't meant to do 50 castings. It wasn't meant to do 100 castings. It was only meant to make a handful of them so you could hold it in your hand and verify that your design would work. And it's not injection molding. Injection molding is a different science. Injection molding the Godzilla spine is not that hard. Resin casting it is really hard, especially when you throw in clear resin into it. You have to find the right material, and you have to play with a bunch of the materials. Now, I guess another thing I would say about Matt is that he works for a company that he's not really in the hobby. I also have to say that he made me say this. He says, I don't need these people calling me up on the phone, Matt. I can't. He does things for me because he's my friend.
Yeah.
I understand that. And because we like to play in the same sort of crazy environment where we push the materials around and make interesting stuff happen. He really is not, he doesn't have a facility to do this stuff in. He has a day job, and he works for a company that makes body parts and things for students to use in schools. Like you might make a hand.
Yeah.
And you can pull the skin back, and there's the muscles, and you can pull it back again, and there's nerves, and you pull it back again, and there's bones. And it's what they give to college students before they get cadavers.
I kind of want one of those.
So that's the kind of stuff he does. As a function of that, he's been doing that forever. As a function of that, he is exposed to lots of materials manufacturers. So it's not like everybody go to Smooth On or a handful of companies. He knows many companies that make many different kinds of materials, and he's familiar with them because of his experiences in his day job, where he's able to understand what's new. And he's also able to influence them a little bit and say, I need a resin that will have these properties and behave this way. So it's not just, pour the same resin into a mold for him. It's figuring it out. Figuring out what's going to work best in that environment.
Yeah. You mentioned 3D printing. Have you tried it yet? Tried doing anything computer and printing it out, or?
Yeah, part of the cosmic ray diffuser, the top part, the really tall cabinet, that's 3D printed, and that was a royal pain in the ass.
Yeah. Why? It was
a pain in the ass because I worked with an industrial designer that designed it in CAD. It's not, I can't. What are the popular? It's
ZBrush or something.
It was, yeah. It was. This was done in SolidWorks. SolidWorks is really industrial.
Okay.
Mechanical design, and he did a good job, but it took months to get it done because he kept trying to change it. And I said, what I'm trying to do is create a proper replica, and it needs to look exactly like this picture, and it needs to be this size. And he kept turning it into a Fender guitar amplifier. No, I don't want the corners rounded. It needs to look like this. And I've probably said those words to him about 100 times. It needs to look like this. And so it was difficult to do. And that was another place where it had to be 1/5 scale because features started disappearing when we started going down to 1/6 scale. One of the advantages to 3D printing is that you can scale things however you want. But once you start to get too small, then they become too small. They disappear.
Yeah.
All right, so and I just told you a story that's sort of outside the norm of what people in the hobby industry would be doing. They use ZBrush and software like that to create an object. This guy was he's a mechanical engineer. He thinks mechanically, and he's trying to make specific things the way he did. And so that's more or less the way that played out, is that it took him a long time, and it took a lot of going back and forth. I was looking for an artistic outcome. He was looking for, a mechanical outcome. And I'm like, I'm not putting spark gaps into this thing, and it's not actually going to do anything. Actually, the original machines didn't do anything. They just looked good. Do you understand that? And you talk to an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, they all, what are you talking about? That's all crazy.
I have those kind of brain fights all the time with people with me wanting to do math at some point. It just doesn't. I look at the way the number 2 looks, not what it means. More than anything.
What's its function?
Yeah.
The other half of the cosmic ray diffuser, the bottom half of it was that's all me. It was all scratch built. All the parts are hand built by these crazy little arthritic fingers. So I created all those parts basically again from reference drawings or reference photographs, I should say.
The lanterns, did those come out of necessity for yourself, for your own model stuff too? Or was that something a customer was like, hey, can you make me some lanterns and torches and skulls?
Just an idea. I guess sort of the germ of it came from Van Bordana put out a Nosferatu model kit years ago. Resin Crypt put out a Nosferatu model kit, and it had a lantern on it. It was a single piece casting and all that stuff. And I said, are you lighting it? And he says, no, the builder can do that. Well, most builders don't do that. I mean, I'm an niche. I say, and I'm kind of I'm the only kid out there that makes these things that light up.
And most builders don't even paint it to look like it's actually lighting an area either.
Yeah, and they don't think about it. I mean, it's not the way that they're wired. And they'll go to Michael's and they'll buy a little votive candle and they'll shove it up and figure out a way to shove it into there. And I just wanted to make something that was more elegant solution, something that looked nicer. And I've done 4 different lantern styles, and I've got 2 more in mind to do.
Same with the skulls and the candles, all that.
The skulls and the candles. That was an idea. I was looking at somebody's kit at a show, something that they had built, and it didn't have a candle or anything on it. Just had the skull on top of 2 books. I was like, that'd be cool if you stuck a candle down in there. And that's where it came from. I just, an idea that I saw there was a way to do that. And those have done pretty well for me as well. Very easy thing for me to do. I decided that I did not want to do my own skulls for those. I had some. I got some skull that came from a Terminator kit a million years ago, and I made a handful of them. I'm like, well, that's sort of recasting, although it was a toy. It wasn't a model kit. And I was like, that's recasting. I don't want to do that. And I find a guy down in Texas. His name's Mark Munoz, and he sculpts his own skulls, and he does a really good job of it. And I just buy his and repackage them with my stuff. Fritz Frizzing did the original books for me, and then the candles on me. Place a plaster.
Looks great.
And I put the LED on top of it and put gel medium on it to make it look like it's got some wax on it. You know, because I built all these machines and all that. And again, I want props for my props. I need to have, you know, monsters and mad scientists with all these machines. They look better when I photograph them. And so I got a bride. I got a Billiken bride, and I got a Horizon bride, and the likeness of the bride was terrible on both of them, just terrible. I've seen people do good paint jobs on them. On the Billiken one, the one just never does it for me. Doesn't look anything like Elsa Lanchester, nothing like her. So I decided I was going to hire a sculptor to do that, and the person that did that to me as a person on my shout out list is Rob Price. Rob Price did a bunch of resin grips sculptures, and he's done some beautiful work. He was really easy to deal with, really fun person to deal with. I've never met him face to face because he's in England, but we had really good email communications. He was very easy to get along with, very cooperative, did what I wanted, up until a moment in time. And that moment in time created a really sort of a fun outcome. Originally, what I did was I just wanted to make the head. The Billiken and Horizon brides had bodies as well as gowns that went over top of the body, bandaged body. And I was just making a replacement head. And Rob did the original sculpt for it, and it all played out. And I mold and cast them, and I was just selling them as an aftermarket piece. And then at some point in time, I said, you know what, this really needs to have its own body. And I want to be able to do it. So I want to do the pose where she's got her hand across her chest and across her abdomen, whatever. Yeah. Famous publicity photo. I wanted to have that in, and I wanted to have those features, but I also decided I wanted the head to be held on by magnets so that they could swap out heads a little bit. I wanted different arm poses so that they would have some variety there. So I decided I wanted to do that with magnets. And so I came up with, you know, I need two arm poses and a body. And so we got fairly far through the process. And so Rob says, well, I've got the cross arms done. What do you want for the other set of arms? What poses do you want them in? And I didn't want the straight out, mummy arms or, Frankenstein arms like the Billiken and Horizon kits. And I couldn't figure that. I was like, Rob, you can take your pick, man. Do anything you want with those. And he says, Matt, this is yours. I want you to be happy. I need you to figure out what you want me to do with it. And so I sat for about a week thinking about it. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me that there's a scene in The Bride of Frankenstein when Dr. Pretorius announces, "The Bride of Frankenstein." And that's the pose that I had to make her the alternate set of arms in, like she was mocking him or mimicking him. That's the inside joke in that kit.
So, Matt, you have a lot of Frankenstein stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember in the one piece, and I don't want to screw up the names of them. So the piece with the heart in it, and the bust. Jeff Yeager
Rebirth.
Rebirth. That's right. See, now when you say it, I remember.
In the cardiovascular revitalizer.
Right. That's a Jeff Yeager sculpt, if I remember right, isn't it?
The bust is.
The bust is right.
From the shoulders up, the machine's on me.
And
so there's two versions of it: Rebirth and Relic. Rebirth has his eyes open. Relic has his eyes closed. And so it's the same sculpt basically, but one has the eyelids closed on it because I wanted it to. Well, the backstory is sort of what happened between the Bride of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, Henry Frankenstein went back to the wreckage of the building and brought the monster back and put him on the cardiovascular revitalizer to bring him back to life. And Relic is right before he comes to life. And
model kit fan fiction. That's good.
Model kit fan fiction.
And you'll never see it.
You'll see that in one of the videos.
Right. But you showed me at Jersey Fest.
His eyes opened up.
The one where you did Jersey Fest and you put the ultraviolet light on it and had all the veining and stuff in it. That was
that was a cool trick. I can't say that I own that. I wanted it. So a lot of times, as I said, I'm not the world's greatest painter, and so Saul Alvarez does a lot of painting for me. And I asked him to put veins on that particular kit, subcutaneous veins, whatever, and he did his magic there. But I also asked him to use another. It's a UV base. It's a UV base, and so what he did, it's basically clear when it dries. And essentially, what he did was he went over where all the veins are, and he painted over top of it with this UV base. And I think I included a picture or two of that in the ones I sent. So hopefully you can.
That was really
none of it shows up as well in photographs than it does in person. It's just golden because I wanted his veins to be electric, and I thought it was a really great idea. As I said, it wasn't my idea. The veining was my idea, but using that paint was not. There's a Doom box in there, the Weyland-Yutani emitter. It's a little box about this big, and it's got a cluster of LEDs on one end of it and control panel on the other side. It's very small. I made that for George Stevenson, and he has the colonist bust, and where the face hugger is wrapped around the head, and it's a bust with the naked chest on there. He had, I think, Neil Vickers paint that for him. And Neil Vickers basically painted it so that you could see her rib cage under the skin if you were shining black light onto it, or if you're shining UV light onto it. So George says, I need something to do that. So I worked up that little machine for him so that he could light that up. So he was the one that pointed me to that material. And it's Wicked Colors. It's an airbrush base. And I can't read the text on it. It's too small. I think it's just called UV base.
Wicked Colors UV base. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the guy that solders stuff this big, but he can't read the label on it.
Eyes are shot. And I got part of my light shut off, so I'm not over firing you guys. I get right up in the camera if you want. So there's that. Anything that glows, I'm there. The problem with a lot of it is that if you want it to be invisible, you don't have a lot of choices. Like the UV material that I use, it's blue, and that's all there is. That's all. As Matt talked to one of the companies out there that makes that kind of stuff, and the guy said, "Yes, I can make you whatever color you want to, and you have to buy a 55-gallon drum of it. And it costs $12,582.
Oh Jesus!
Any color you want." So I'm like, nope. So kind of limited color wise. There's that Ignite material, but Ignite is very colorful when just in broad daylight, and then when you hit it with UV light, it glows up like a Christmas tree or a neon light.
And where did the and again, if there's a name for it, God correct me please. Split. The half Frankenstein skull, where did that come from?
It's called Split. That's just something that fascinated me early on. I had asked Brian McGuire to sculpt the original skull. He sculpted me 2 different Frankenstein skulls. The second one was way better, and he's missing some teeth there because Karloff was missing some teeth.
Right.
He pulled his bridge work out so his face would suck in. And I asked Brian to do that for me. I said, I want this to be Karloff's head, though. I don't want it to be just a Frankenstein. It needs to be Karloff's head in there. Mm-hmm. So he sculpted it for me, and I sold it, on a little stand that I think there's a picture of one of those in there. It's like a piece of film strip. I Belong Dead is one of the ways that I sold that, but essentially it was just a skull mounted to a machine of some sort of simple machine. And then I had that for a long time. And then I saw something that Thomas Kuntz did. He did Lady Bathory whatever, and he split her face. So it's a skull on one side and Lady Bathory on the other side. And I was like, that'd be cool with Frankenstein. So Brian did not have the time to work on that, and I got hold of Randy Lambert at Matt's suggestion. I got hold of Randy Lambert, and he was the one that added that to it. And Randy does some really bang up stuff, really good, Universal monster likenesses and all that stuff. Really, another person that was really easy for me to deal with.
Did you get a lot of time to build your own model kits, or because you forward some of that? What do you like to build when it's your own free time, when you're not doing, or is this kind of like, this is what I like building, is the Doom boxes and stuff?
I don't get enough time to build my own model kits. I have a lot of model kits. I tend to be selective about what I buy. I don't feel the need to have every kit that's out on the marketplace. Mostly I buy specialized resin kits. I have a bunch of John Dennett's he has a bunch of little mini that he did that were all characters that he created. I like those a lot. I just picked up a Nosferatu. I think it was an AFM thing. This guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
On the boat deck, it comes with metal hands and all that. I got a really good deal on this about a week ago.
Cool. That's why it's got the steering wheel for the ship, right?
I have I bought the latest Enterprise model from Polar Lights from Discovery. I really like it.
Monster. Is it big? Is that one big or no?
It's as big as the original AMT.
Oh, okay. So it's not too big.
About 18 inches long. They made some really small ones that were 11 or 12 inches long. I was like, I don't care. And I'm going to paint it the way I want to paint it. Well, it's probably not going to be copper, but.
No copper? Come on.
Yeah, that model kit, they want you to buy a set of decals that are, it's called Aztec.
Mm-hmm.
An Aztec paint job on them, and that's a long story by itself. Go look it up if you really want to know. It's something that really just doesn't do it very much for me. And so that's something you can buy as a separate aftermarket thing. I should say it's aftermarket. Polar Lights sells it. It's just not included with the kit. And then there's a lighting kit for it. And I actually said, you know what? I'm just going to buy their lighting kit, and I'll probably modify a little bit. I'll hack it a little bit and make it better.
Blasphemy.
I'm good with. Because I want an easy build. I want something that's not like absorb me entirely for the next 6 months. Like going back to the cosmic ray diffuser, that project took me a year and a half.
Wow.
And that was intense. A year and a half. I didn't do much other than that project.
Hey, Scott still got you beat. He's working on that Tiny Terror for 21 years. So.
But I knew what Strickfaden was.
Yeah. So what? I know what Nurgle is. Do you? No. Anyway, your wife, does she support all this? Is she happy that you're in there tinkering around all the time?
She does. I would Starlighting projects would not exist without my wonderful wife, Marilyn.
Oh, that's awesome. She
Who
come to the shows
fantastic,
with you and stuff?
Fantastic, nice lady. For anyone
she's
that's
a really
never
nice
met her.
lady. She's a really nice lady. She's the perfect person for me to be married to, and hopefully I'm the perfect person for her. So she
Scott, how come you don't talk about your wife like that?
She lets me get away with doing the stuff in our shop. She really started the day job company that we have years ago. We do manufacturing training as well as prototype assembly for companies.
And do you want to brag on Marilyn's talent that a lot of people maybe don't know?
Uh-oh. Is this clean?
No, it's clean.
Okay.
Scott, you have no idea. Marilyn's a violin player. She's a singer. She's a guitar player. My wife is multi-talented. I call her my little underachiever. She does everything. In her lifetime, she's done everything that I can think of. She goes to France. She knows French. She goes to Germany. She knows German, the German language. And which one were you talking about, Scott?
As a violinist, I know she.
That's just one.
Yeah.
That's just.
But now that you mention that, I remember you telling me. I remember more of it as you went down the list. I didn't know all of it, but yeah. So, and of course, we can't forget the angel that you have.
Moneypenny
Flux.
Moneypenny Flux, yeah. So our last dog was Felix Flux. He's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. I didn't create the name. It's just the breed. So his name was Felix Flux for Felix Leiter. And then Money Penny is, obviously named after Money Penny, and Flux is basically because we solder and we use flux for soldering. So they're our mascots, and she's here most of the time. I bring her to work. Marilyn takes her home, but she's here mostly every day, just about. And I couldn't do without her. I'll be heartbroken when she goes. She's still pretty young.
And when they're at Wonderfest, they have access to watch her on the camera where they leave her.
Pet cams.
On the pet cams. So I've seen her on the pet cams, but she's very camera shy. She doesn't like to come out a lot. So.
She's timid. Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
She's gorgeous.
Really does nice things for our happiness.
So. Where are you headed next? More Godzilla fins? Or
to do that? I don't want to do that anymore. Matt told me no, we're not doing it anymore. He says, "This is the last time I want to hear you say the words Godzilla to me." I don't know. I have another project. You were talking about 3D printing, and I had a foray into something I was doing there. These are little 1/24th scale walls. This was 3D printed, and this is what the original part looked like. And to do it again, I would not do it again.
Oh,
it was okay. It was playing with materials.
Yeah.
Are either of you guys familiar with an art form called lithophane? Lithophanes are something that were done starting around mid 1800s, where people would take a piece of porcelain and they would engrave the back of it, and then very detailed, like they were painting it, and then you backlight it, and the image comes through the front, and it looks like a photograph.
It is not what I was thinking it was. Okay,
so that's what a lithophane started off being. Well, people have figured out recently, it's kind of interesting, go dig this up. There's YouTube videos about it, but there's places where you go. Essentially what you do is you take a photograph, you run it through a piece of software that basically converts it into a 3D mesh, and then you can print it. Okay. So you can take a 2D image and print it 3D, so it's a relief. So it's got thickness to it.
Right. Okay.
And then when you backlight it, you print it in white resin and you backlight it, and you can see this very vivid image.
Is there a guy doing night lights right now? Is that what he's doing?
That's my buddy Neil.
That's Neil. Okay. Yeah, I've seen those. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, they're a beautiful thing. There's lots of people doing that kind of stuff, but he's doing it really in the monster world and all that. He lives here in Pittsburgh. He's a friend of Brian's, and he's a 20-some-year-old kid that has been a model builder all his life. He's a resin head all his life. And so he was doing those, and I asked him about them. He asked me to do some lighting for him, and he brought it by, and he said, "Oh, have you seen these yet?" And he brought some of them with him, and I said, "Well, that's a really cool idea." And I had him print one for me. It's a picture of Henry Frankenstein, and in the background there's a wall. Mm-hmm. And all there's texture, and I was like, "I want one." So I sent him the photograph, and he printed it, did the conversion to it, and printed it. He printed it out for me, and I'm like, I can make walls that way. And so I got hold of a graphics artist buddy of mine, and I said, "Draw me a Frankenstein wall. Well, it looks something like Frankenstein." And he's real familiar with it. And Joe Brady. And he's real familiar with the subject, and he did it, and he textured it, and we printed it, and we did multiple different experiments with it. This story's going to go straight into a brick wall. We did multiple experiments with it, and it ended up producing these nice little pieces. Okay. And they do have nice texture to them, but they have some striations on them. This is a filament printer.
Yeah. Okay.
Resin printer. So there's some striations on them. There's growth lines on them. At the end of the day, after doing this for a while, I have these things that look really good from here, from this far away. But if you get right down on them, they're almost pixelated. Well, I find a way to get around that. Basically, you blur the picture, and then you can print it again, and you can clean this up. After it's all said and done, if I would have started off with a little piece of canvas and some epoxy putty, I could have done that in about 3 hours. 2 or 3 hours. I could have made that in 2 or 3 hours. I didn't have to go through all these other steps.
Right.
Sort of breaking the. That's not what lithophanes are for, you know.
Yeah.
The thing that's beautiful about it is that I can get anything done that I want. The artist is basically hand drawing these. He imports it into Photoshop, and he can manipulate the image a little bit, so I can get anything I want, anything, and I don't have to use a ZBrush centric,
Right.
scope to do that. I can take any image of anything and put it into there.
Huh.
So it was a nice experiment. It was just playing with the materials.
Experiments are fun.
I like it when I figure out how to. I have an idea. I'm going to do it, and I think it through, and I go, "That's not going to work." I like it when I do that because that gives me more time to do it.
It's safe. I wish I did that more.
I hate it when I get down that path and it just goes crashing straight into the wall after I have too many hours in it.
We're getting close to the end here. Anything else you want to add? Talk about, throw up, name drop, shout outs?
Yeah, there's a couple people I wanted to mention. I talk about Matt most of this time. Don't anybody call him.
Nobody call Matt.
I talked about Brian McGuire. I talked about Robert Price. Mark Kalin is always a really good resource for me. George Stevenson has always been, since early on when I was in the garage kit business, whatever. He's always very supportive of me and always pushes me to, when he knows what I'm working on, he's always pushed me to do his best work I can. So I actually just did something for him.
Cool. Keep it under the table.
You may see at some point in time. My mother and my dad. I mean, there are two people that supported me all the time when I was a little kid. Everybody, we have people that outside of our family would say, you come from a really bohemian family, because everybody in our family has some sort of artistic talent. My father used to build models, and then he started getting into, doing wood sculptures and things of that nature. My mother basically was a seamstress and, sewed from patterns and then started sewing her own stuff. My sister Ann does a lot of stuff in fiber arts. My brother did a lot of artistic stuff. My oldest sister is a landscape artist, and I guess I'm the brat of the family, and I do resin model kits and things of that nature.
No, don't sell yourself short there, sir.
You're the Strickfaden of the family. Yeah, you're the Strickfaden of the family.
My dad was always funny, and he always was willing to feed my habit of all these model kits. When I was having a hard time, screaming and crying, pitching a bitch on the floor, my mother would say, just walk away from it for a little bit and you go back to it and it'll be okay. Just give it a rest for a little while. And have you thought about doing this? And so she was always real supportive. And when I talked about my wife a little bit, she is the middle of my universe.
Oh.
I love her so much. So those are those. If I wanted to talk about anybody that was an artist that inspired me, number one on that list, or one of the I don't want to say this because we'll get a big ego, whatever, is Thomas Kuntz. Thomas Kuntz is somebody that I really admire.
He's my dream guest right now, actually. I want to get him on here.
I hope you can get him.
Yeah.
He's not an easy person to get hold of.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's busy. Second off, I was like, I don't think he wants a whole lot of limelight.
I know.
I've talked to him. He was kind enough to come to when he was at Wonderfest last year. I talked to him for a little bit. I walked up to his table and I introduced myself to him. I had my Strickfaden shirt on. He says, I know who you are. You're the guy who had the stuff. That's really great. And so it just made me happy that this guy even knew who I was. But he talked to me for quite a while and gave me some insights into some things. I said Robert Trock. Matt Jeffries that designed the Enterprise. I'm sorry, we're getting way off.
Oh no, that's.
And then, the last person's Jimi Hendrix. Guy played music from his soul.
Yeah. I don't know who Jimi Hendrix is. I'm just kidding.
I know you don't know who Jimi Hendrix is.
I'm totally joking. I know who that guy is.
No, but he's probably crying about Van Halen today. But
no, I'm not. I don't. No.
Okay.
No, Jamie is, not me.
Okay. Matt, and we talked about this off camera. I'll never forget really the first time I got to know you a little bit. What did I do? I was such a shit to you. Because I remember you were trying to get out of Wonderfest by a certain time. I just kept walking by him going, it's almost that time. Almost that time.
We were talking about getting out at 6:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
To be back in Pittsburgh, by that evening so that we could do stuff on Tuesday and all that. That was Sunday. And Scott was sitting with his, watching us, sitting with his feet up on the table. We're trying to move boxes. And I was like, could you help me move this box? And he was like, no. No, I really can't.
Yeah.
That's when his feet came up on the table.
Twice a month, I mean.
Thanks, Scott. And he just kept beating me and beating me and beating me. And that's when I didn't like you. That's when I knew that there was a reason why.
Hey, but I think I did carry a box eventually. Okay, I think I did.
You did. After much goading and beating, I had to hit him with a cloud a couple times. Most of that's a joke. It was all good.
But we were having a lot of fun. Marilyn was laughing at me. And, really good time.
Scott, Scott, you have no idea what he's going to do to you if he gets a hold of you.
You know how many people have probably said that about him? It's fine. Oh, man.
I'm a kinder, gentler Scott.
Now you are, yes. Yeah.
Matt and I spent a lot of Saturday night at Jersey Fest just hanging out, bullshit. And,
that was a good session there.
Yeah, and that was a nice thing that they had there.
I sat down at a table with a group of people that I don't generally hang out with, and it ended up being a lot of fun. Jersey Fest is a good show. I don't know. Jason, have you been yet?
I went to Resentopia once. I have not been out there for that.
Yeah, the vibe at Jersey Fest is a lot different. The people are much more of a family-oriented group. And
cool. Yeah, I'd like to go one of these days. When we have shows again, if ever. With all this stuff going on.
Next year.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a blast.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you having me.
And we're back. How about that, Matt Lawrence, Scott?
He's a maniac. He's he's the Strickfaden of the hobby.
Oh, I finally learned what a Strickfaden was.
Yeah. So next time you watch Young Frankenstein, in the opening credits, there's a thank you to Kenneth Strickfaden for lending the original Frankenstein lab equipment.
Well, see, I've watched that. I don't know how many times as a kid. I would never have even remembered that. Yeah. Like, ever.
So, and we discussed a book that was out. And I did find it. I couldn't find it prior to us talking, but there is one book out. I don't know how good it is. I bought it just because there's cool sketches and stuff in there. So
yeah, it was very interesting hearing that story. But Matt's stuff, when I walk past his booth at Wonderfest, it's one of those things. It looks amazing. It looks cool. And you just think, oh, he's selling kits of these little things. And some of them, yes. But those Doom boxes, those are all one-off for people, like custom made. Like, I did not know that. And that kind of, you'll see it, like you saw in the video, I was blown away. I didn't know he was just I thought he was making one repo. And then no, it's all like great guy. And the hobby needs more people like that doing original cool things. And I hope someone got something out of that. At least, if anything, you're inspired to make something.
Right. I was interested that, being a mold maker and having my own kits, I would go through the same thing. I would make a mold of something. I would make it work. And then I would get bored with it. It's like, let's do something else. And when I was making kits, to just sit there and make the same kit 8 or 10 times to bring to Wonderfest, it was like, it was boring. It made me crazy. It was cool. Like, I know you came over a few times and I had parts just laid out all over the table and stuff, but it's.
So then maybe you're not a caster. Maybe you're a mold maker, right?
Well, the problem with that is I can work with my molds, but a lot of people can't.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I remember, and I'm not trying to shed a bad light or anything, but I remember John Tuckey got some molds that Brokaw had given him. And he had a hard time with them. Now, I had gotten some molds Brokaw made for Rob Rotundi, and I had no problem with Mark's mold. So it's the person, it's how you're used to doing things, and you make it work for you, but that doesn't mean it's going to translate to working for the next guy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to our mailbag. Do we call it? No, we're not going to call it mailbag. It's, as always, emails and corrections. Do we have any corrections from last week? Not last week, but last episode. I don't think so. Other than we are sorry about the length. We understand that.
Say that.
We're trying, like we said, we're trying to keep these shorter, but it's hard because we like to
blame
talk.
Phil. It's Phil's fault. It's your fault, Phil.
And we loved it. Like everything Phil did. Great. It's just hard to edit that down sometime when there's so much good stuff. Mm. So with that being said, we are going to try and stay closer to about an hour and a half. I think we're close to that, or we're probably a little over, but, yeah, bear with us. We're learning. And as far as emails go, speaking of Phil, we love Phil because he's the only one that sends us emails. He sent us some model kits of his to share. Towards the end of your podcast, some photos of really old, rare figure kits that I built and were produced by Lunar Models way back when. They are 3 kits of creatures from the movie Angry Red Planet. 3-eyed Martian, rat, bat, spider, and giant amoeba. So check these out. They're from Phil. And they're pretty cool.
If we want to know what happened to Phil's hair, we can see. It's on the,
I've never seen this giant amoeba kit before, I don't think.
No, I haven't either. I haven't seen either of those other two. I've seen kits or figures of the other one. I've never seen these two. So.
I mean, he also says a little history. Mike Evans ran Lunar Models, and sometimes after he closed up shop, he started another figure model company called Alchemy Works. So thanks for a little history lesson. We actually had an email to read. That's great.
Phil would be our history teacher.
Yeah, he will.
When I couldn't fill in, he would be our history teacher, maybe.
Oh, did you see the pun in there? Fill in. Anyway.
Fill in. We filled in.
Yeah.
No shout out to Charlie Robson this week because he didn't comment on our last video first time. So now Charlie hates us apparently. So because Trevor has now taken over as the #1 commenter, maybe we'll make Trevor the fan club president. Trevor, you're in.
All right. You're out, Charlie. You're out.
You're out, Charlie, unless you better start kissing up, pal, I'll tell you. So
and a scheduling thing, we are going to try and squeeze another episode in here by the end of the month. But if it doesn't happen, it'll be out November. So we'll see what happens this month. Anyway, thanks for joining us on Model Club TV. This has been episode 8. Scott, you want to say goodbye?
I don't want to say goodbye. Let's just talk forever. All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.